Hi guys, welcome to today's video. This is 2019 paper 2, question 2, and it's going to be some great practice using algebra in paper 2. So let's get into the video.
Okay, so here's our question. We're told the line P makes an intercept on the x-axis at a0 and the y-axis at 0b, and neither of these points are on the origin. And we've got to show that the equation of P can be written as x over a plus y over b is equal to 1. Okay, so we should have everything we need here because we've got 2 points. We've got both the x and y intercepts. So I always think the first step in finding the equation of any line should be to identify first of all the slope. So in order to find the slope of a line, we can use this formula here in our log tables. Just taking y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1 for any 2 points, x1 y1 and x2 y2. And now we're going to identify 2 points we can use. So we're going to let x1 y1 be equal to a0, and we're going to let x2 y2 be equal to 0b. And again, we're just using these because these are the ones they gave us in the question. And we're not going to worry too much about cancelling anything down. We're just going to see how we get on. So therefore m is equal to b minus 0 over 0 minus a, which is the same as minus b over a. And if you know your coordinate geometry quite well, you'll know that this is actually the general case for any line in a certain equation. But we'll get to that in a minute. So now we have our slope. There's actually an equation in the log tables we can use to find out the rest of the equation of a line. And you should definitely learn this off. And it's just this one here because it's so important. And we're going to be particularly interested in this side of things here because we've got 2 points we can use and we're just going to pick one. And of course we've already got the slope found out. So there we have our formula, and now we can just plug in both m and x1 and y1, which we're just going to let be equal to a0 again. So we have y minus 0 is equal to minus b over a multiplied by all of x minus a. So we're just going to simplify that a little bit and get rid of our brackets. And we're left with the following. And generally with these type of questions, you're going to have to multiply or divide across by something in order to get the desired result. So if we go back up to our equation we're looking for, it's pretty clear that we need to multiply across by a to get closer to this. So after doing that, we've got ay is equal to minus bx plus ba. And we notice in the question as well, we have our terms involving x and y both on the same side, here and here. So we're going to do the same thing. So just by adding across by bx. So our final step is going to be to say, okay, so what would we have to do to x to get it to be equal to x over a? And because we have bx, if we divide it by ab, it would actually end up being x over a, which is exactly what we want. So hopefully that will work as well for the other 2 terms. So here we have what happens when we divide across by ab. And if we just cancel like terms, and what we're left with is exactly what we're asked to show. So therefore we've shown it, and that's it for this question. So nothing too tricky there. I just like to do those ones in a lot of different steps, so I make sure not to make a mistake, like a simple one to do with subtraction or something like that. But part A in total is worth 10 marks. So in part B, we're told the line L has a slope m and contains this point A, which is 6, 0. And all we've got to do is write the equation of the line L in terms of m. So this is just extremely straightforward. If we just go back and get the equation of a line formula once again, we're basically just going to use this, and we're going to leave m in as it is. So we have our formula, and we've got the point 6, 0. So that's our x1, y1. So when we sub back in, all we've got to do now is just multiply in the brackets and get rid of our 0 on the left hand side. So what we end up with is y is equal to mx minus 6m. And that's actually our final answer. The one confusing thing about this part of the question is, okay, you might think, how do we get rid of the y and x because we're asked for it in terms of m? But all the equation of a line is a relationship between y and x, so it's actually impossible to have one without those 2 things. So we've gone as far as we can, and for doing that nice handy part of the question, you're going to get 5 marks. Part 2 tells us that the line L cuts K at the point P, and we have the equation of K here as well. We've got to find the coordinates of P in terms of m, and give each coordinate as a fraction in its simplest form. So this is a little bit trickier, but we're just going to go through it in steps. The first step being to rewrite the formula of the line above. So we just work that out up here. So there we have the equation of the line L, and there we have our equation for K. So whenever you're trying to figure out where 2 lines cross, of course, where they cross, you're going to have an x and y coordinate being equal to each other. So we actually already have a y on one side here in the equation of L, so we can sub that in order to get an equation of x in K. And of course, it's going to be m, but we can just ignore that for now. So now we've got this equation. Once again, just subbing in mx minus 6m for the y coordinate in question, because we're allowed to do that, which is a handy trick to know. And we're basically just going to simplify what we have now and try and get x on one side. So we have 4x plus 3mx minus 18m is equal to 25. So we're going to factorize out x where we can. So here we have x basically isolated. So now we're just going to add across by 18m and also divide across by 4 plus 3m in order to isolate x. So there we have our x coordinate in terms of m, but of course they did ask for each coordinate, so now we're just going to have to sub back in somewhere for x in order to get y. So it should result in the same thing regardless of which equation you use. However, just because there's more numbers involved in the equation of k, I'm just going to use this one. But again, it doesn't technically matter. But before we sub into k, I'm just going to rewrite k so that we have y on one side, because this is going to be easier to do before we sub in. So now we have an equation in y and x with y on one side that represents k, and that's our equation for our y coordinate. If you like, we can simplify this a bit, and it might as well because it'll look nicer. So that seems like a suitable answer. And now we've given x and y in terms of m, which means we're finished with this question. So nothing too tricky there, just to realize that whenever we're looking for the coordinates at which two lines cross, we can obviously assume that their x and y coordinates are equal and then use that to get equations. So a pretty common trick. And for doing B part 2, you're going to get 10 marks. And that is actually it for this question. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, there's going to be other similar videos in the description, as well as some other useful things that might help you out. And I'll see you next time.